At the edge of the star's gravitational well, a flash of radiation flared as a spacecraft fell out of warp. The flash died out a second later, only to be replaced by the steady red burn of a fusion torch. It took some hours for anything else to happen. The craft burned in system, a direct acceleration curve that took it close to the star. Only when the steady burn was deep inside the gravity well did the rest of the party arrive. Tens, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands. The flashes caged the gravity well in a grid of light. They too turned into steady burns, although these were cleaner and brighter than the lone light racing into the well ahead of them. As one, the 100,000-strong cage of mighty spacecraft collapsed into the gravity well, falling onto the star and the prey that was racing for it. Normally, no one had the motivation to swear under 3 gravities of acceleration. The captain of the UNE Tiny had no motivation either. What he had was character. Holy fucking crap, he groaned into the threefold weight of his own body. Reinforced muscles groaned to force out the human's verbal rage, an effort that no natural human could hope to muster. I still can't believe they just stopped fighting and turned on us. Yes, sir, agreed Tactical. All we did was kill a few million logistics personnel, no loss there. Fuck you, said Logistics from behind the console. Seriously? Said the captain, ignoring his crew's behavior. They were fighting, millions were dying, and they just stopped? You want the real joke? Offered Intel. As we left, I saw them merge their tactical networks. They had compatible tactical grids, and they merged them. Yeah, not a surprise, said the captain. We did just see a space equivalent of a musket line fight. I bet their ammunition is compatible, in case one of the sides runs out before the other and they need to share. The captain's joke was, unsurprisingly, also very true. The Red and Blue Admirals were still aboard their flagships, but their respective dreadnoughts were now only 1,000 kilometers apart. The Red and Blue Admirals were still aboard their flagships, but their respective dreadnoughts were now only 1,000 kilometers apart, and moving in formation in order to simplify coordination. There was no friction, competition, or distrust here. Both admirals, both fleets, were single-minded in their action and training. Upbringing, tradition, and honor drove the 100,000 ships to mirror one another as they dove into the system. Map, report, willed the Blue Admiral. Yellow star, planet, asteroid belt, 4 gas giants, nothing else to report. Tactical, where are the humans going? Densest part of the innermost belt, sir. Intel, why this system? Unknown, reported Intel. System has no notes in our files. There was nothing else for the Blue Admiral to say, no orders to give, no questions to ask. They went where the dishonorable prey fled. It was as simple as that. Halfway to its destination, Tiny turned around and began to decelerate, satisfied that their prey was not attempting to rush through the system and flee. The thousands of craft on the other side of the system shifted formation in preparation for their own deceleration maneuver. Hours later, Tiny slowed to a stop relative to the star and asteroid belt. Their pursuers, still hours behind on their own deceleration curves, began to launch fighters. As dictated by tradition, the larger ships stayed back, even as faster craft rushed ahead to close with the dishonorable. Red and blue corvettes, gunships, and light cruisers moved in a more narrow, collapsing globe, as they prepared to crush the lone craft that had dared to break millennia-old traditions. The first of the fighters began adjusting their courses, steering clear of the rocks that began to populate their course. UNE Tiny was sitting still at the most dense segment of what used to be a planet. Her crew was silent as they watched their screens and plots. It was an impressive sight. Hundreds of thousands of spacecraft drives, all burning directly at Tiny, as the absurd globe slowed as to not fly past them. All targets are within optimal range, whispered Tactical. Largest elements are within the 100 light-second radius. The captain turned to sensors. Cameras on? Cameras on, confirmed sensors. Prepare to call. I can do you one better, offered comms. The captain glanced a frown at the officer. What do you mean? Both the Red and Blue Admirals flinched and recoiled when their displays flickered. The useless information-free starscapes being displayed there vanished as the face of a human appeared from the static. Admirals? The 2 admirals, who were doing the only thing they were good at by yelling at their subordinates, shut up and turned to face their screens. The scene was mirrored across the Red and Blue flagships with near-perfect precision. Do you know where you are? No one spoke up. No one knew. This is the graveyard. Whose graveyard? Snapped the 2 admirals as one. Their eyes widened as the human on their screen smiled. He could see them. The captain didn't show it, but he was ecstatic. The bastards had answered exactly as he hoped, calculated, and prayed they would. Ours and yours. 100,000 spacecraft, all decorated works of art by any standard, were expensive to make. By comparison, 100,000 antimatter bombs cost about as much as 10 of the fleet's 1,000 battleships. The 100-light-second globe of engine flares and ships disappeared in the overwhelming light and radiation of antimatter annihilation. The lights were pretty, but in the void's vast scope, harmless on their own. It was the invisible rays of death that did the real work. The small, sheathed charges exploded thousands, millions of kilometers away from their targets, but a sizable portion of their radiation was directed in narrow rays that struck the decelerating spacecraft with cones of unfiltered hate. Most of the United Fleet was almost still when the world exploded around it. When the glow of annihilations faded, their engines were no longer burning. A globe of dead spacecraft drifted around the remains of Earth. 2 dreadnoughts remained. 2 paralyzed admirals stared at the feeds that had been hacked and forced onto their displays. 2 creatures listened to the static-piercing voice of the human talking through the flag deck speakers. You deemed our world dishonorable. Your tradition dictated it to be destroyed. Your people applauded as you tried to commit genocide, only to forget the action a generation later. Such is your culture. Now, you witness ours. Your deaths will satisfy our honor. Your extinction will be our tradition. Our people will applaud your end. Unlike you, flee home so your worlds may know fear before they die. On the edge of the star system, a formation of 300 UNE battlecraft sat in the ruins of the enemy logistics fleet. Now, their telescopes and sensors were pointed in-system, at Earth's ruin. Thousands of crew stared, silent and pensive, as the light of judgment washed over them. The light delay allowing the observers to watch without spoiling the view of the flashes of their distant arrival. The unyielding nightmares of Earth watched as the UNE Tiny spoke death from within the dissipating cloud of radiation, and tracked the 2 dreadnoughts as they fled the system. The UNE Admiral waved with 2 of her fingers, and her tactical tapped their consoles. Warp drones scattered across the system edges flashed away. Each carried orders for the bombs, drifting far above every red and blue planet in the galaxy. Wait for the planet to receive the news. Wait a day for the panic to spread. And then, kill them all. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you're new here, welcome aboard. Check out the description for the story, and join the Discord if you like. Consider supporting the channel and the author as well. It's a dangerous world out there, but remember to be brave and look up to seek the stars.